"Hello," I said. "Where would you like this?" I waved an arm at the largest pallet of boxes, bags, and miscellaneous other packaging. It was on one of our biggest hover sleds, and accompanied by some of the biggest crewmates. The water wheel at the loading gate burbled thoughtfully, sounding like a water jug given sentience. She extended what passed for an arm of her own and pointed indoors. "You'd better bring it all the way in. Over here." She glided inward, moving in that mysterious way I'd never figured out. Someone shaped like a column of jello had no business scooting forward that quickly, no matter how much their lower end rippled against the floor. But I didn't have time for galaxy gazing. I had to help steer the hoversled. Regulations said we needed someone on all four sides for a load this big, just in case of anti-grav mishaps. Didn't want it slamming into something breakable at this client's facility, or slamming into anything at all, really. But this place was some sort of high-tech manufacturing plant, and I didn't want to think about what kind of damage a crash could do. No mishaps today, though. The Frillian twins paced along on either side, all muscles and tight clothes. They left the flowy silks behind today, a solid choice. I couldn't see Z in the back, but I heard the quiet click of his bug feet. My own feet were silent in proper Earth shoes as I tugged the steering handle and followed the water wheel. I thought we'd just take the thing to the far side of the big loading dock, unload it in an out-of-the-way spot to be unpacked later, but the water wheel kept going. We passed hovercars and wheeled carts, storage cabinets and bins, along with a baffling arrangement of pipes along one wall. Windows showed glimpses of the busy manufacturing facility. I had no idea what they were making. Maybe I'd get a better look on the way back out. "Oh hey, a human," I thought in surprise, as I passed a bigger window. "With a strong arm on his back? What in the world are they making together?" I was already moving past, and could only speculate about intricate manufacturing projects that needed hands and tentacles at the same time. I was still wondering why the strong arm hadn't just pulled up a chair next to the human, when the water wheel signaled me to stop. "Stopping," I announced for Z's benefit. We all came to a halt, and nobody crashed into anything. Hallelujah. "Here, please," the water wheel said. She stretched her arm out into a long tendril to pick up a scrap of something blue that had fallen on the floor, and pointed at an empty space near several foam-topped tables. "I need it out front. Heem, can you oversee?" "Sure thing," said a voice from nowhere. Then a strong arm climbed out from under one of the tables. "Found the last of the broken bits, by the way." Two of his tentacles were curled around pieces of the same blue stuff the water wheel had picked up. The blue stood out against the dark red of his skin, but not as much as the four mismatched tentacles on the other side did. They were a transparent blue-green, much like the water wheel's own tendrils. I tried not to stare, and failed. "Thank you," the water wheel said. "I'll be back in a bit." She set her broken piece of whatever on the nearest table, then scooted through a door that was apparently soundproofed, because a cacophony of whirs and whooshes filled the air until it closed. "Right," I said. "Over here then." I steered the hoversled into position, then we all worked together to guide the detachable gravity platform onto the ground. That part always made me nervous, since it looked like the giant pallet that could crush me was floating through the air with just a touch of technological magic to make it go. I understand other models of industrial-sized hoversleds have more mechanical-looking gravity platforms, or regular forklift arms. Ours was the glowing magic kind, and it deposited the giant stack of objects with all the precision of the best fairy tale enchantment. "Perfect," said the strong arm. "We'll unpack it from here. Thanks." "Our pleasure," I said. Z, finally able to see over the hoversled, got a good look at who I was talking to. "Oh, I'm sure you're fast at unpacking," he said, pointing with his pincher arm, Does that model form into blades? Sure does, the strong arm said, holding up a see-through tentacle that instantly flattened into a shape like a steak knife. Good for packaging, stubborn latches, and all manner of other things. And stabbing, Blob put in, to be immediately shushed by his sister. No stabbing on the job, she told him. The strong arm laughed. Yeah, just respectable tool use. They don't give these out to anyone who's going to do violence with them. I asked, is that water wheel tech? I haven't seen one before. Yup. He turned the knife back into a tentacle, then into a variety of other shapes. One of the perks of working here, for sure. They're cagey about sharing tech. This is the best prosthesis I've ever encountered. I thought of the hard metal and plastic replacement limbs that were stranded on Earth. They would be wildly out of place on this guy's squishy octopus body. And no amount of interchangeable attachments would be able to beat this kind of easy shapeshifting. I said, that looks really useful. It is. The loud door opened to emit a wall of sound, along with the human and strong-arm pair, which I realized with a start was actually just a human wearing more transparent tentacles on his back. Here's the new set, he said to the strong-arm, placing a clear box on the table that was full of a stack of more flat blue things. They appeared to be cut into very specific shapes. I might have been curious about what they were for, if not for the much more interesting thing to be curious about. Hello, I said. Does everyone who works here get extra limbs? The tan human grinned. If they want them, and they pass the screening, of course, but you've got to leave them here each day if they're the bonus kind, as opposed to replacements. The strong arm wiggled his tentacles in a taunting manner. I can open packages and slice food so easily at home. The human made a face and wiggled the tentacles on his back. Yeah, we're all jealous. Someday I'll convince the bosses that there's an actual market for these, and I'll be the first in line to buy my own. They think there isn't? I asked in shock. Those look so useful. I can't list the number of times I've wished for more hands. Using teeth and feet only goes so far. Z made a disparaging hiss. You have that many fingers and still want more? Greedy. I'm just saying that reweaving a cargo net would go much faster if I could hold all of the fibers at once, I told him, then turned to the Frillians. Back me up. 2 arms just isn't enough sometimes, right? Blip and Blop looked at each other and shrugged. I guess, Blip said, but that's just when it's time to get another person to help. Z clicked a pincher. Exactly so. Or approach the problem differently. The human told me, I've had this conversation more than once. Apparently not all species grow up imagining what it's like to have bird wings or monkey tails or whatnot. Surely other people want to fly, I said. The expressions around me were dishearteningly blank. Surely. I wouldn't bet on it, the human said. See why I couldn't convince the bosses? But even on a practicality standpoint, I exclaimed. They have you using them here, why wouldn't they think you want to use them at home? He shrugged, moving the tentacles in a graceful wave as he did. Alien brains. I've given up trying to fully understand. The strong arm spoke up. If there are actually a large number of humans who would buy these, then it couldn't hurt to put together a request from outside sources. The bosses don't listen to random employees who are probably biased, but they might take an interest in actual buyers. I shook my head slowly. Our courier ship isn't going to be that kind of buyer, especially not at the scale they probably need. What about big human ships? Blip asked. We could suggest it to the next one we meet. Or human colonies, Blob said. Or large groups of space stations. Z said, I heard Captain Sunlight talking about a delivery to Basal Station soon. There are plenty of humans there. You could suggest it to them, if you think this is really that widespread an interest. It couldn't hurt, I said, thinking. There was indeed a significant human population on that space station, which might even include the crew I'd met from the droid jousting ship, Hold My Beer. They were definitely the type to appreciate some extra arms, both for working on finicky electronics and general slap-fight shenanigans. "Here, we should have something with the contact information," said the strong arm. "John, is there a notepad over there?" "Yeah, got it." The human leaned over a table and used his tentacles to lift a stack of books so he could pull out the small notepad at the bottom. That may have been showing off. "Here you go." He handed it to me with his regular hand. "Thanks," I said. "I'll see if I can find the right ears to whisper into." "Best of luck," he said. "My partner has asked me no less than half a dozen times if I could sneak my set home to play around with, but I'm not going to risk the job." I laughed, hoping I wasn't blushing. Oh man, I wasn't even going to mention the bedroom applications. Of course, Z had to ask, tilting his head with faceted eyes shining. "The what?" "Remember how most humans find tentacles a little creepy?" I asked him, pocketing the notepad. "I recall. It makes this insistence all the stranger." "Well, some humans aren't creeped out at all. Kind of the opposite. They like them a lot. In, private fashion." John the human spelled it out for him. Mating rituals. Z's antenna did a complicated dance, then settled in something that looked like disgust. "I was about to ask why, but I've decided I don't want to know." "Yeah, best not to," I agreed. "Anyway, very useful, extra arms. Good for a wide variety of activities. Other humans will likely be interested." "Very likely," John agreed. I activated the hovercart with a nod, and we said our goodbyes. The employees wished me luck. They returned to work while we headed back toward our ship. Z grumbled disparaging things about my species the whole way, but that was nothing new.